Well, we also watched AEW Dynamite, also from May 20th, 2020. There's a short little hype video to open, plugging the 3 big matches for the pay-per-view. I think this is the same voiceover guy from the Floyd Mayweather 24/7 specials.
Maybe.
It'd be awesome if they got him. So the
He's
3
a very
matches.
chill fella.
But sort of. I mean, he's not screaming at me or anything. It's not. I don't know. It's not a screaming voice, but he's very focused on what he's talking about. Anyway, the 3 matches they're plugging are Cody versus Lance Archer in the finals of the TNT Championship Tournament, the Inner Circle versus the Elite in a Stadium Stampede match, and in the main event, Jon Moxley defends his world title against Brody Lee. A limo arrives. The Inner Circle gets out.
I would like to add, by the way, that the opening video for Dynamite is new, and it includes all sorts of cool spots, like, Cody coming off the cage. And it does, in fact, include Sammy Guevara getting hit with a golf cart.
That was in last week.
And it just makes me happy because I don't like to see people doing dangerous shit. But what really bothers me is when people do dangerous shit and then you never see it again.
Sure.
It's like the cage walk that Elix Skipper did in Impact. I mean, that fucking guy risked his life, and we saw it 85,000 times. It's probably still in the opening graphic today. So I'm very
I'll never know.
Very happy that Cody's moonsault, which was batshit crazy, and Sammy Guevara getting hit with a golf cart, which is batshit crazy, are now immortalized in this opening graphic, and hopefully they will be for years.
So the Inner Circle gets out of the limo. Alex Marvez tries to interview them, but they're just dicks. It's their show, and if you think what they did to Vanguard 1 was bad, wait till you see what we do to the Elite. To which Alex's follow-up question is, what are you going to do to him?
Great question, Alex. I mean, it was a stupid question because you should know you're not going to get an answer, but it was a great question. What are you going to do, guys?
Well, they did not answer the question. They just called him a variety of insults. They called him Bendejo and Nincompoop, and then just poop. Made me laugh. Okay, the opening, shot all the fans in the stands, including Private Party and Big Swole with their Shad Gaspard armbands. Tonight on Dynamite, Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara. Jake Roberts and Arn Anderson go face-to-face. Ray Phoenix versus Orange Cassidy. Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander versus Britt Baker and Nyla Rose. MJF versus Marco Stunt. And our opener, Jon Moxley versus 10. So it's Jon Moxley versus 10. But first, Brody Lee has to do a promo. And since Brody Lee is doing a parody of Vince McMahon, I guess he has to do a 20-minute boring, rambling, pointless promo.
You are so clearly not watching Raw.
Well,
fuck me. If you were watching these Seth Rollins Monday Night Messiah promos every Monday night, this was fucking a home run. As far as cult leaders go, this man is 10 times as charismatic as... Seth doesn't even get it. Like, God bless Seth. I'm glad he's going to be a dad. On a personal basis, I'm very happy for the guy. But his character is fucking lame. And how in God's name do you do a cult leader gimmick where the fucking cult leader is boring as shit? It doesn't even fucking make any sense. Who the fuck? Name one fucking cult leader in history that was a boring, just fucking nothing happening, lifeless geek. Like, there's no such fucking thing. The whole point is they're so wildly charismatic that they can fucking sell you anything. That's what a cult leader does. I don't even understand what fucking Seth is trying to do here. You're telling me that you think that Jesus fucking Christ, God, I can't even believe I just said that, but Jesus, the actual Jesus Christ, was like some boring dude? What?
I don't think so. I so desperately, badly want to see some form of art, theater, film, opera, whatever, with a lifeless geek cult leader. I'm desperate to see this now.
Watch Raw.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Well,
you're like, who the fuck are these guys following this guy? Buddy Murphy? Like, anyway, move on. I'll be here all night.
Well, as far as Brody Lee goes, Brian, he says something about being not a god. He is a man. He is in possession of a very special piece. We are the Lions. We do whatever. Blah, 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 blah. He goes on for a while. I have to win to prove the loyalty of my men. 10, he says, turning to 10. This is your moment to shine. Oh, did I mention he tells 10 to take a knee, but he didn't take a knee the right way, so he had to bark at 10 to take a proper knee, and then
yes.
10 does the same fucking thing?
No, he lifted his chest up and became more upright.
Well, that was too subtle for me.
Wow.
So he, at the end, pulls 10 up to his feet and says, this is your moment to shine. You are now a high knight of the Dark Order. Rise and go hurt Jon Moxley for me. So that sucked. The match was fine. 10 is the muscular dude who looked great in the beating last time they were out here. And his wrestling is perfectly fine. And then he's working Mox over, and Mox is the paradigm shift out of nowhere. And I'm going to have to get specific with some of these moves because Jon Moxley works AEW and also New Japan, and he uses some of the same moves with different names. So this is the basic double arm DDT that was known as the Dirty Deeds when he was still working for WWE. So he hits this move, which is his finish, and he stops and walks around for a while. He still wants Brody Lee to come out and give him his belt back. So Brody does not come back out. So Mox grabs 10 and just spikes him with a gotch pile driver. It looked awesome. Just plants his head in the mat. He continues to stall for a while. He grabs him by the arms and hits his New Japan finish, the Death Rider, which is a lifting double arm DDT, a double arm brainbuster. And finally, he just gets the pin. And by the end of this, Jon Moxley looked like the champion of the earth and the best wrestler in all the world.
That's why I love this. And he's using the Death Rider in AEW.
I'm sure he has.
That's how he put Omega's head through that glass table.
That's true, yes. Yeah.
But anyway, this was exactly what you said. Like there was that Omega match a few weeks ago, the 7-minute enhancement match, and people were like up in arms because he was selling so much. It didn't bother me that much, but I mean, he did sell a lot. This was, Jon Moxley sold a little bit for the guy because they want to give the guy a little credibility.
Sure.
But my words here when it was over are, and I quote, Jon Moxley was undoubtedly the winner of this match. There's no question. No question who the better man was. No question who the champion was. No question who the best wrestler in AEW was. He beat the fuck out of this guy.
Maybe they call him 10 because he would lose 10 times in a row to Jon Moxley.
It was great.
Yes. So he's not satisfied. He goes outside. He throws a chair up into the sky. I believe it came down on 10's face. He was much more gentle with his second chair. He threatens to Pillmanize the arm. Says, you're trying to punk me out. I'm not going to go back and chase you around backstage like a geek.
Like a geek.
Like a 10. He doesn't say lifeless geek. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to come out or I'm going to break his arm. So Brody Lee appears on the screen.
I'm not going to go backstage and chase him around all night and look like a geek.
Yes.
I love that line.
I
wonder why.
It's a great line anyway, but also it's Jon Moxley and he's fantastic. So Brody Lee says, you have made your bed. You're going to lie in it. If you wanted this back, he says, gesturing towards the belt, all you had to do was ask. I meant business, but you have made this personal. We all have to make sacrifices, and so I am leaving. And he leaves, and his crew leaves, and Moxley very casually says, all right, see you Saturday. And then he breaks 10's arm because he's a psychopath. So that's it. That's the end of this, and that's the end of either of these guys in the show, I'm pretty sure. And all I can think of when this is done is that of the 3 matches being plugged for the main event on Saturday, this is a distant third on my interest level. I am way more into Cody and Lance. I am way more into the Stadium Stampede match. This is like whatever. Jon Moxley needs something to do on pay-per-view. They're going to give him Brody Lee. That's fine. But I don't actually care about it one way or the other. So I'm wondering...
It's because I think that you think, as does everyone else, that there is 0 chance that Brody Lee is winning this match. I also think there is 0 chance that Brody Lee is winning this match. Mm-hmm. I think it would be a big mistake. And
yes,
it also is... a lot of things changed with coronavirus, and they rewrote a lot of things. I'd bet you dollars to donuts this was not originally going to be the main event of this show. If we were in Vegas right now, we would be talking about a different championship match. But things happen, and this is what happened.
Now, my real reason about bringing this up is in WWE, they would just go through the World Championship would be the main event, and that would just be that. In this case, they have another big match on this card they could do, and I'm wondering if they would actually do Cody and Lance Archer last and make it the real main event of the show.
Well, because it is for a championship.
It's for a championship.
It is an inaugural championship.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them doing that, but it is not the World Championship.
It's not the World Championship. That's why I say, like, WWE would never do it, but it's been built up much better on TV, and I realize there's prevailing circumstances, as they like to say, but it just feels like 100 times harder to me than this random John Moxley.
Yeah, but you know what?
Match.
In 99% of cases, I can think of one time this didn't happen. The IWGP title goes on last, even if the fans are more interested in the Intercontinental title. There was one time when they put it to a vote for the Tokyo Dome, and the Intercontinental title match won, but it was one time. And every other time, same thing, like, how many times did Ric Flair not defend the NWA title in the main event of a major show? It was always the main event, even if there was something underneath. So my guess is Moxley's going on last.
MJF versus Marco Stunt. The commentary in this match is unbelievable, mainly because they have complete credibility when they're talking about a rotten human being Maxwell Jacob Friedman is. They're talking about it even before the match, and Tony, under his breath, just mutters, "What a jerk ass."
Tony Schiavone's disgust for MJF is a great storyline.
Yes, because it makes him completely realistic and relatable.
There is, by the way, I don't know, I think it was on Road to Double or Nothing. There is a fucking great MJF promo. And like every MJF promo is great, but I mean, the thing I couldn't take my eyes off of is he's in this giant fucking wooden throne.
Sure.
Where the fuck do you get one of those?
At the MJF Emporium. So after Tony calls MJF a jerk ass, Jim Ross mutters, "He's a slap Richard."
Excuse me?
Well, you can't say slap dick on TNT. He's a slap Richard. And Excalibur and Tony had your exact same laugh, by the way. So they're doing this match. They're talking about other things. Everyone here has been tested. They acknowledge the terrible passing of Shad Gaspard. And then Tony goes, I can't even call it a rant, because it's not like he was pulling his hair out and screaming and spitting. He just says, very matter-of-factly, "I don't like to pick sides. None of us do. It's sometimes difficult to do. But it's easy to do when MJF is on one of the sides because he's so unlikable." like it wasn't supposed to be funny, but he's so matter-of-fact when he says it, it was hilarious. So it's the match itself, it's MJF versus Marco Stunt. MJF is the world's greatest bully, and Marco Stunt is the world's greatest bullying victim.
Dude, I mentioned this 1,000 times, but I must mention it again. I saw this match in New York over WrestleMania weekend. That's the match where I said, I've got to have a match with Marco Stunt. That's where that whole thing began, was from watching MJF versus Marco Stunt. And this match, and I can say this because I saw the match in New York with a fucking hot crowd.
Yeah.
This match was good. I actually watched it twice for reasons we don't need to talk about, but I watched it twice. But anyway, I watched it and I thought it was good, but if they would have had a crowd, this match would have been the best match. I can't say the best match on the show because the fans would have just lost their shit for Orange Cassidy too. Yeah. But like MJF is such a great heel, and Marco Stunt is like such an underdog. And this would have been so great with the crowd. It was still a lot of fun. But this really was missing that crowd.
This, with their couple of dozen guys in the stands, was still the most heat I've heard at a wrestling show in months, as they're chanting, "Marco, Marco."
And again, the reason for that, by the way, is because this is a match. This was a psychological match. This was David versus Goliath. This was a story that was built upon getting a reaction and garnering sympathy and garnering hate. Not like Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle, which is just you're watching two guys grapple the shit out of each other.
which I love, by the way.
Yeah, they were both great in different ways, but one of them
different flavors of ice cream.
One of them needs a crowd more than the other.
Sure.
This was one that needed a crowd.
That's fair. So as MJF is bullying Marco in the corner, he turns to the announcers and screams, "Tell everyone this is Jungle Boy's future." And Tony screams back, "I'm not saying that, you big mouth brat." Can I just right now vote MJF versus announcers as the best feud of 2020?
Hey.
Maybe. So they're brawling on the floor, and MJF raises his hands high over his head and shouts, "You're dead!" And he brings his arms down, but Marco dodges, and there's a loud boom as MJF's hands hit the apron. And then he screams in pain. So what you hear is, "You're dead! Boom! Ah!" And I laughed. And I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. And finally, MJF throws him back in, hooks the salt of the earth, and he wins. This was a very fun match.
Yes.
Then MJF cuts a promo. Spoiler, it's very good. Congratulates Marco for doing a lot better than anyone thought he was going to do. He's so proud of Marco, he thought about offering to let one of his rats in Jacksonville give him a kiss. But nobody in the whole world would ever touch your lips. So you can kiss the ring instead. And he lays him out with the ring-assisted punch. And finally, Jurassic Express run out to chase MJF and Wardlow away. But that was a winner of a segment.
Dude, I know we've said this before, but like, unless MJF suffers some catastrophic injury, or he just like becomes some crazed drug addict, I mean, this guy will be one of the greatest because he is such a great talker. And you can look through wrestling history at guys who are great talkers, and so they just coasted on it.
Sure.
But he's also really good in the ring.
Yeah, I didn't talk much about the actual match. And part of it is as Marco. So MJF could do a lot of things he doesn't usually get to do. But he's a hell of an athlete.
He's a hell of an athlete. He's a really, really good worker. He's a great talker. And he's also absolutely 100% a student of the game, which is a cliche, but it's true. Like, I would bet you anything that if you did like a wrestling history quiz with him, he would probably surprise you. And this is a guy who's 22, 23 years old. I think he might be 24 now, but whatever. He's early 20s.
He's very young. He's a baby.
He knows so much about the history of wrestling because he has studied it, which means, and he's not a dumb guy, so he's learning what has been successful, what has not been successful. Hopefully he's able to look at everything that he does and be able to step away from himself and look at it and say, okay, well, what worked and what didn't work, and what can I learn from this? But, like, he's a total package. Like, Lex Luger actually was not the total package because he had a great body, but he couldn't really work all that great, and he wasn't, like, a great talker, but he was super charismatic. I mean, he was underrated from the stuff that we watched in the mid-90s.
Good Lex was very good.
Yeah, good Lex was very good, but, you know, he was missing things. MJF is, in fact, a total package.
Yeah.
He can work, he can talk, he gets it at a very young age. He's only going to get better.
That's also true.
Cody is 34, and Cody believes that when he turns 35, that is when he will be in his prime. And he may very well be right, okay? MJF ain't going to be there for 11 fucking years.
Sure.
He won't be 35 for 11 years. This guy is going to be something.
MJF with 11 more years of seasoning.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's enticing. A recap of the Cody Lance Archer program. And then it is time for the Jake Roberts, Arn Anderson face-to-face promo. And Jake comes out, sits at one end of the table. Arn comes out, sits at the other end of the table. And they just have a chat. And Jake says, "It's funny, as much as our paths crossed, going back in our time in the business, we never met in the ring against each other." And he kind of goes off on Lance for a while. Dreams. They talk about you and me having a dream match. Well, dreams aren't real, nightmares aren't real, but Lance Archer is real. And Cody can't run anymore. He sacrificed his own brother just so he wouldn't have to face him, but all those games are over. Cody can't run away. He's got to face Lance in the ring. As for you, Arn Anderson, I got to ask, is this your weekend pass from the home And he adds, "You're looking pretty thick these days." And so Arn responds, says, "Jake, you almost made me believe you. I seriously got goosebumps right now sitting here with you. Because the thing you and I have in common, Jake, is we're both credible." And Jake says, "Yes." Because Jake knows that he and Arn Anderson are both great promos with tons and tons of credibility. Arn says, "Everyone was always afraid of you, Jake, and they were afraid of your giant snake. But that snake was just a distraction. You're the killing machine." And they go back and forth right now. Jake offers to fight right now at one point, but Arn turns it down and says, "I want to talk about Iron Mike Tyson. Did you know that Tyson's got clearance to go wherever he wants? He can go on the floor, he can go in the rafters, he can sit in the front row, and I'm going to be honored to share that floor with Iron Mike Tyson before he presents Cody with that championship belt. But I got to know, Jake, are you going to throw your stupid snake on him?" And Jake says, "Whatever I do to Tyson, I can guarantee it'll take him out. But I promised Lance the first shot at Tyson, because he can't take him out and he will. I was really hoping I'd get to bump into Brandy Rhodes again." And they go on for a while. Arn has a great point where he says, "Cody has to win this. Cody told me he has to win this. He's not just Dusty's son. He's not just Dustin's brother. He is one of the leaders of a company that have turned this business on its head in a year's time." And at this point, Jake and all the wrestlers in the crowd will give him an ovation. So Arn explains, Cody has to know that his leadership is being recognized because he earned it, not just because of his position. And he says, "Jake, I see you over there shaking. You're starting to get nervous. You're getting nervous because I am a vicious prick. I heard you doing DDP yoga. That's good. I want you nice and limber when I spine buster your ass and stick your head where the sun don't shine." And Jake can take no more. He flips over the table. And these two, God bless them, past their prime, not in the best shape, not the physical marvels they once were, but there's fighting words between them. There's tension. And when Geeks came out to separate them, I was like, "No, let them fight. I want to see them fight." That was very good.
Yeah, it was very good, but
we did not get the Cody promo.
No, and
Cody was not on the show.
Listen, these are two of the greatest promos of all time. But I was expecting more. I thought this would be significantly better than it was. I thought it was good. I did not think it was great. And on top of that, it would have been better to have that Cody promo. We still haven't got any words from Cody about what Jake Roberts has done to his wife.
Yeah.
His wife. He put a snake in his wife's vagina and pretended to hump her. What? Why isn't this guy cutting a promo? I figured we would get it on this show.
Yeah.
We didn't. We got Arn and Jake, which again was good, but I would have preferred the Cody promo.
I figured it was... Sorry.
Go ahead.
I figured Cody was coming later, but no, Cody was never on the show. I don't know where he was, if real life intervened, but it was a very odd choice, if it was a choice, to not have him on.
Now, the other weird thing about this was it was really interesting to see them teasing a fight. And Jake actually was moving fairly well. I don't know what he can do. But Arn Anderson retired due to a serious neck injury when MJF was 1.
Yes. Yes.
That was a long time ago.
I don't think they should do a match.
I think this would be a very bad idea. Mm-hmm. I even think a mixed tag would be a very bad idea. No. And clearly Tony Khan is not in that Vince McMahon camp of do not promote a match you can't deliver. Because that's what they did here, kind of. That's what I thought watching it.
I think Arn may have exactly one spine buster. Jake may have exactly one DDT, and that's.
But they shouldn't be doing it on each other.
Probably not. No.
that's my point.
That's actually a very good point.
Yeah.
I don't need to see Jake taking spine busters, especially. That's bad. They do a little quick plug for the casino ladder match. So it's a 9-man match. These are the entrants.
By the way, I would like to add that as much as, I think every single promo that Jake has ever cut in AEW was better than this sit-down face-to-face.
That's probably fair.
Yeah.
But and
it wasn't bad, but every promo that I've seen Jake cut, I've been thinking he's got to win Best Non-Wrestler or Best on Interviews promos, or something. Yeah. He's so fucking unbelievable. And this was just they were good.
This was a good TV promo. So, the casino ladder match, 9 guys, ladder match, timed entry, yada yada. The combatants are Frankie Kazarian, his partner in SCU, Scorpio Sky, Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, Luchasaurus, Rey Fenix, Kip Sabian, Colt Cabana, and the dreaded mystery opponent. This leads to a Darby Allin video. As always, it's very artsy-fartsy. He's playing poker with everyone wearing masks of the other men in the match, and then there is a ladder that is set on fire. Okay. Packed as a video. It's apparently still in England, set in this video, and is going back and forth from himself in street clothes to himself in his gear, all completely sweaty and psyched out. Says he has stayed at home and weathered the storm before, but never again. Orange Cassidy, you cocky little prick. Maybe tonight is the night you finally get over yourself. Rey Fenix is going to kick your snout off and send you to meet your maker. Consider yourself marked. Pac is a great promo.
Yeah, he is.
And it led to Orange Cassidy versus Rey Fenix. What a great, great, great wrestling match this was.
Where are all those fucking people that were upset that Orange Cassidy got hired?
I don't know.
Fucking guy's great.
He's awesome. So, for like 3 minutes, Orange just plays keep away. And he dodges everything, but he dodges any comedy matter. So, like, when he's in the corner and Phoenix tries to kick him in the balls, Orange jumps. So, Phoenix's foot hits the turnbuckle and he sells. Great comedy like this. He's got his hands in his pockets doing stuff, still running wild. After like 4 minutes, Phoenix finally gets a hold of him. He hits him with a foot stomp of death to the back and lays him out. And as Orange is down selling, Phoenix reacts like he is being chased by an irritating mosquito, but he finally catches that mosquito, swats it to the earth, and stomps it into the ground. Just like he has done to this irritating Orange Cassidy, stomped him into the ground. It was awesome. So, they'd have this match. Phoenix is awesome. Orange is absolutely awesome at being Orange Cassidy. And making the gimmick work in a way that his comeback is being Orange Cassidy. For example, they are fighting on the top rope, and Phoenix is trying to hook Orange's arms for like a top rope tiger driver. But Orange is able to break the grip of the arms by furiously sticking his hands into his pockets, which pulls his arms down and breaks the grip. And he headbutts Phoenix off the ropes, but Phoenix comes back with a springboard super code red. There's all sorts of near falls. Finally, Sabian, one of the other men of the ladder match, comes out, climbs the ladder, gives Orange the thumbs up, but turns into a middle finger and a gif. I can't believe this gif has not been shown 5,000 times on the internet of Kip giving Orange this middle finger. Orange is distracted. Phoenix hits a low blow. Rolling cutter wins. Excellent pro wrestling.
Yeah, I talked about it ad nauseum today, so I won't talk about it anymore, but Phoenix almost killed himself.
Well, after the match or during, or both?
When he did that dive and nobody caught him.
The dive is after, yes.
Yes.
I hadn't gotten
that's
that
right.
yet.
That was during the ladder match spot right there, but
yeah.
I won't go into the he's probably working Saturday. Him and Matt probably both working Saturday. Britt Baker, I don't have an update, but she was getting her MRI today and it was not looking good. But they did the big schmaz after the match with everybody doing dives and shit like that.
Oh my god!
And fuck,
this was
my god,
an actual train wreck would be safer.
Jiminy Christmas! The only one that really looked really bad was Phoenix, but like Orange Cassidy hit his legs on the barricade.
That was very, very bad.
And dudes are just crashing and burning right and left. That was somewhat scary.
So all the ladder match dudes come out for a big fight, and the big spot for Phoenix is he does like some kind of twisting dive off the top rope, and everyone's supposed to catch him, and I don't know exactly what. Maybe he went higher because he went super high than they all expected.
Well, they all expected him to go up and out, and I mean they were watching forever, waiting, but he went straight up and straight down. And as somebody noted to me, I mean, even if they leaped in to try to catch him, they probably would have shoved him into the ring apron on accident. It would have been worse.
They may have. So what happened was nobody caught him. He goes probably a legit 15 feet off the floor, 15 feet above the floor, splats on the pretty black mats, bounces off the pretty black mats. This is what would have happened to Dream if they had not done a crash pad spot. Just savage and brutal this was. I screamed. And then Colt Cabana runs in. It's his turn to hit a dive, and he's got to do a dive basically onto Phoenix's dead body. That was very bad. Orange does his dive. He's launched into space with the best friends. He comes down knees first on the guardrail. This was such a catastrophe. At least Orange was able to get up and walk and pose on the ladder, but you could tell he was in pain. All sorts of pain.
Yeah, this poor fucker, he got kicked in the back of the head by Phoenix last week. Almost killed. And then here he hits the barricade. I mean, this guy working one time a week is fucking having a worse time than working a full schedule.
Yes. Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker and Nyla Rose. So they actually they replayed that stupid kendo stick spot from last week you both hated. Let's drive things down. So, okay, I have not been up in the news today. I have not heard about Britt Baker. What happened to Britt Baker?
Well,
I'm aware she was not in this match very much. But
they were doing this match, and they did the spot where Britt's in the corner, and Nyla charges, and she accidentally hits Britt. Britt sits down.
Yes, I remember that, yes.
And then the babyface decided they're going to throw Nyla Rose onto Britt.
I see.
This is a dumb idea. I don't know.
They actually threw her into Britt. Okay.
I don't know whose idea this was, but they threw her, and she fell right on Britt's right knee. And probably tore her ACL.
Yeah.
And she was out of the match. Actually, she was not out of the match. Statlander tried to do spots with her, and Nyla figured out what was going on. So Nyla drags her back to the corner and tags herself in. Britt ends up on the apron, and Dr. Sampson shows up, and he's working on her knee. And Nyla worked the rest of the match and ends up pinning Shida, who is the challenger for Nyla's title Saturday.
Not just pins her, but she went for some kind of like backdrop cradle thing that didn't look good. And I don't know if it's a plan finish or not, but it didn't look good. And Shida kicked out. So Nyla says, okay, and grabs her and hits her finish and pins her.
Well, I don't know what was supposed to happen, but my guess is that either Britt was supposed to pin Statlander, or maybe Statlander was supposed to pin Britt, and Britt was out, and so they had to do something.
And Nyla can't get pinned.
And Nyla just came up with, powerbomber and pinner.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. But yeah, this was 2 injuries at this point on this show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now the finish at least makes more sense in that it was shit happens and they called on the fly and didn't make the best decision. But what are you gonna do? But I was very confused when this happened. And then after the match, Nyla goes to put Shida through a table, but Statlander and Shida double team her and superplex her through the table instead. It's all very perplexing. I was wrong earlier. Jon Moxley had one more appearance in the show. Not just the opening segment. He had this promo here with Marvez. Jon Moxley says, everything in life goes to violence eventually. Well, that's terribly depressing. I didn't need to know that. Explains how if you don't like where I parked, I'm not going to move my car. You're going to take me to court. I'm not going to court. You got to fight or whatever. Says the same thing between him and Moxley. I want my belt back. He's not giving me my belt back. We have to fight. It's going to get bad on Sunday, he says. 280 pounds dropped on his dome. That's enough power to knock out a rhinoceros. And Brody Lee will wake up. He'll have lost the match. He will have lost his power. He will have nothing but dudes in gimp masks to soothe his ego. It was nice knowing you, he says. And he leaves. All right. If you have been listening to AEW or even maybe some of the old NXT, I haven't always been the biggest fan of Shawn Spears. I believe my exact words have been that he has just enough talent where he should be losing on TV every week. This Shawn Spears news thing was the best Shawn Spears bit I've ever seen. I thought this was awesome. It's Shawn Spears News, SSN. Shawn Spears is behind a desk, your anchor for this evening. And he has breaking news. After a mediocre career spanning 3 decades and suffering severe injuries at the hands of Lance Archer, Dustin Rhodes, at the request of friends and family, has decided to retire. And I concur with this decision. So congratulations, Cody, because that's what you wanted, right? As for you, Dustin, retirement must be a hard pill to swallow, but 12 years ago, swallowing pills was no problem, right? And as for me and other real news, I don't have a match of the pay-per-view, which is unfair. This company wins and losses are supposed to matter, and I am very close to cracking that top 5. Yet I have no match of the pay-per-view. What do I have to do? I know. I have to go into business for myself. I have to challenge Dustin Rhodes to a match. Now I've done it. I've challenged Dustin Rhodes to a match. Now that people are expecting it, now AEW has to book that match. AEW has to promote that match. Problem solved. This is the best thing Sean Spears has done by like 1,000 miles. I thought this was fantastic.
It's very odd, though, because the whole point of it is that Dustin has retired, and then he challenged him to a match, and then it's booked.
Well, Dustin hasn't actually retired. He's just being a dick.
I guess he is not retired.
No.
So that's added to the pay-per-view now, Dustin and Sean Spears.
Which brings us to the promotion for the pay-per-view lineup. It is, in fact, Sean Spears versus Dustin Rhodes. John Moxley versus Brody Lee for the AEW World Championship. Cody versus Lance Archer in the TNT Championship Tournament Finals. Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida. MJF versus Jungle Boy. The Casino Ladder Match. Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander, at least was announced here. And, of course, the Stadium Stampede, which is where they're going to... It's the Elite versus the Inner Circle, with Matt Hardy taking the place of Cody in the Elite. They're going to have, in the football stadium, they're going to set up 2 rings at the 50-yard line. But it's falls count anywhere, no DQ.
I was laughing at that. It's like...
Why bother having rings?
Falls count anywhere in a 70, 80,000 seat stadium, but there's rings there?
Why bother?
What are there rings? Well, I explained it today on the show. It's like the stadium is your city, and the rings are the community playground. So if you decide you want to do a bunch of flips, or you want to do some rope running, the ring's there for you.
Sure.
But you can actually win fucking anywhere.
All right.
It's very bizarre. It's one of those only in wrestling things.
They got the space. Well, yes, that's for sure. But they've got the space. You may as well put a ring or 2 out there. Why not?
I wish this was like a video game where they could announce there's going to be 100 rings on the football field. You can win in any of them.
There's a ring every 10 yards.
Yes.
And you must win in the first ring to advance to the next, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Also, on the buy-in for Double or Nothing, Private Party versus Best Friends in a tag team top contenders match.
By the way, the Casino Ladder match, they're fighting for a poker chip.
A chip. A giant chip will be hanging over the ring.
Yes.
Yes. Next week on Dynamite, there's going to be a Battle Royal. The winner of that Battle Royal will be the first challenger for the TNT Championship on June 3rd on Dynamite 1 week later.
I like little things like that because AEW Battle Royals are always fun. And the winner gets something. It's not just a pointless battle royal.
Yep.
And they'll probably lose. If they don't, I'll be flabbergasted. And there you go.
And it's a battle royal, so anyone can win. Doesn't really matter. And it gives that match a point. It makes the ensuing championship match feel more important because somebody had to win a battle royal to get a shot. They didn't just come out at random. It's simple, easy stuff like this that makes the show better.
Not to mention, it's fun because in WWE, like, a low mid-carder would never win that battle royal. And I don't know if a low mid-carder will win it in AEW, but I believe that one could.
Sure.
And you could do a match that you normally would not see for a title, and it would just be something different, even if the person doesn't win.
Yeah, it's just a fun thing to do, but not random, out of nowhere, pointless. Like, well, I guess Zack Ryder was ladder match at Mania, but anyway, they can have a guy out of nowhere win. And then he gets his match. He can have an entertaining match. He can wrestle as the underdog. He can sell most of the time, get some hope spots here and there, have a fun little match, and then he can lose. It's not a burial, and it's just wrestling. You know, it's just this is how everything's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be complicated. Sammy Guevara, Matt Hardy have a little hype video. Matt's just being all crazy and wacky, and Sammy says, "We're not the bad guys. We are the good guys. We don't want to hurt anyone, but we're going to." So the main event of this show is Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. You know your reaction last week when Vanguard 1 was destroyed, and you said, this is too far, or I can't take this part of Matt Hardy, or whatever you said about it? That's how I felt about Matt's offense in this match. When he is out there slamming Sammy's hands one by one into the apron, and then squeezing his head against the ring post, I thought, what am I watching? What is this?
You're watching Damascus, dude.
So they're doing their match. If I were in charge of a wrestling company, I would not have Matt Hardy doing long main event singles matches on my TV show. There's better options on this roster. It's not bad, but it's not good. It's just an average wrestling match going longer than it needs to. Matt hits about 20 twist of fates. Sammy takes a great bump for every single one of them. And Matt also, at one point, was biting Sammy's toes, which is funny because if you're not familiar, Matt Hardy stole this look from the villain of the first Mad Max movie, who's named Toe Cutter. Matt's probably wanting to do that for about 5 years. Eventually, one of these Twist of Fates finishes. I was very underwhelmed by this main event.
I thought this match was pretty good. I didn't think it was as good as the Orange Cassidy match.
No, God, no.
But the only criticism I really have, I didn't mind Matt's offense. I thought Sammy was great. The only thing that was weird about the match is Sammy goes for a shooting star press. He misses. Matt hits a Twist of Fate. Sammy kicks out. Then, like 3 minutes later, Sammy goes for a shooting star press. Matt gets the knees up, hits the Twist of Fate, and pins him. They did the exact same sequence twice.
Yeah.
And the second time was the finish. It's just weird.
I don't know. I didn't get it. So, Matt's about to do more to the Sammy Guevara fella when the Inner Circle appears in the big screen and they're torturing Kenny Omega in the football field. You've got him pinned against the goalpost.
Actually, it's funny because Jericho shows up on the big screen with Kenny. He's cutting a promo, but there's no audio. And the fucking wrestlers in the crowd start going, "What?" I died.
Oh, that's awesome.
And finally, they got the audio.
They got the audio.
Promo.
So they're whacking on Omega with this baseball bat. Matt Hardy has to make his bow-legged run up the stairs to go try to make the save for his friend. And they're beating him up, and they're beating Omega up, and the camera now cuts just full time to the football stadium. And you see two figures stand up in the stands in the background. And I forget which announcer it was. I think it was Excalibur. But one of them very nonchalantly just says, "Oh, it's the Bucks."
Why not?
And then, like a second later, it kicks in, "It's the Young Bucks! They're finally back!" So the Young Bucks do dives out of the stands and starts making the save. They're working in protective masks, which made me laugh.
Did you watch the Young Bucks on Being the Elite 200, the match they had?
At their house? No, I did not.
Okay, so they're at their house. There's a tennis court, and Nick does like a pescado. There's like this big wall. It's probably 8-10 feet on the side of the tennis court. He dives off this wall onto his brother on the tennis court. Like a 10-foot pescado onto a tennis court, okay?
Right. Not meant for landing on.
No, but he does it, and then he gets up and he says, "House show dive." It's a pescado. So I laughed. But anyway, so here we are. It's weeks later, and Matt and Nick both do a house show dive, a simple pescado onto all the bad guys, and somehow Matt busts his rib on it.
Ah.
And like I heard about it before it happened, and I watched it, and I'm like, how in the fuck did you hurt your rib, dude? It was a perfect landing. Everybody caught him. It wasn't a phoenix. He just did a simple dive, and somehow he busted his rib. As of today, it looks like it's only bruised, so I presume he's working the pay-per-view, but last night the doctor thought it was broken. But anyway, so then he lands.
For clarity, this is Matt Jackson, not Matt Hardy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So Matt Jackson, he blows at his rib, but he like keeps wrestling or whatever, keeps brawling. And so I knew his rib was injured because I'd heard about it earlier. So now I'm really just watching him like, fuck, this guy's, still doing all this shit. And all of a sudden, this big fucking hoss Jake Hager just starts fucking pounding on him with these forearms to the back. I'm like, oh God, this poor guy. Hager's just beating the shit out of this poor guy with these forearms. By the end, Matt's holding his rib. I was like, oh God. 3 on one show. 3 on one show.
That's a disaster.
Brutal.
So I'm watching this brawl, and to this point, there was stuff I liked on NXT. There was stuff I didn't like on NXT. There was stuff I liked on AEW. There was stuff I did not like on AEW, and I was really thinking I was just on the fence about what show I was going to vote for. And I look in the background of this football stadium. A tiny, like 3 pixel tall figure goes dashing across my screen and dashing and dashing. And it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, it finally turns into Hangman Page, who runs in and I think hit Hager with a 50-yard lariat.
And the best part was, I mean, the whole spot is just about the run, okay?
Yes.
So you could have got away with just like a whatever clothesline. He fucking took Hager's head off. He just ran and fucking decapitated this guy. The only thing that would have been better, I'm going to put over Mike Sempervive, this was his idea. Hangman should have been on a fucking horse.
Being on a horse would
He should have run. He should have been on a fucking horse, gone the whole length of the stadium, and then clothesline Hager from the horse. That would have been the greatest. But this was second greatest.
I went back and watched it because I didn't actually see where he came from the first time. I had to go back and watch, and it appears, and it's hard to tell because he's very, 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 very far away, that there's a door on the field that looks to be right about the 50-yard line. So he comes sprinting out of this door, and from the moment you see him, he is sprinting as fast as he can the whole way. So from the sideline to the center of the field is something like 30 yards. Something like that. So he's got to go 30 yards sideways, get to the middle of the field, then turn right, and then the other 50 yards to the end zone. So he legitimately did like an 80-yard sprint for this clothesline. This has to be the longest clothesline in wrestling history.
Oh, of course.
And he was hauling. He was sprinting as fast as he could go. I'm laughing my balls off at this. It's just the best. And of course, because they knew what they were doing and what they were going to get, the camera is in the end zone, but off to one side, positioned perfectly so you see Page hit the field and run all the way across and make us turn. There's no point where he's off camera. There's a few points where you may lose sight of him as he runs behind someone who's very close to the camera, but it's not like you can't see him or know where he is. It's just awesome. It's like a 9-second setup for him to hit this clothesline, and he finally just waffles Hager with it. And at this point, because I had been to the fence, I decided if I end up voting for AEW, it's going to be because of that spot right there. That was the difference maker.
Well, now's your chance.
Eventually, the fight just kind of stops. Everyone's had enough. The inner circle vanishes. Page, being Hangman Page, does not stick around to party with his friends. He walks up the ramp into the building part of it to get a beer. The other members of the Elite are left in the end zone, which has their logo in it, and their logo is on the screens behind them as they all strike their poses. The Bucks are doing their biceps. Hardy's going delete, 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 and the show fades away. That was an awesome segment.
Well, it's time, and I will go first this week. I really liked NXT. And as I was watching NXT second, I thought it had a chance. But that goddamn main event finish made me so mad that I am taking it out on them. And the winner this week is AEW. And actually, as we review both shows and I look back on this AEW is in fact the clear winner to me. But I do want to say that outside of the main event finish, I thought there was a lot of really good stuff on NXT. But AEW is getting my vote this week. You liked the good stuff on NXT a lot more than I did, which is fine. But I like I say, there was good stuff on both shows. There was bad stuff on both shows. But the best thing on either show by far was Orange Cassidy and Rey Fenix. And so that's as good a reason as any, that and the clothesline spot, to also give my vote to All Elite Wrestling.